we got that jumpered again. Let's try this. Hi there, this is Ray with Easy Simple Mechanic, and today we're going to continue working on the 1972 Ford F-100. We're going to see if we can't figure out what's going on with the electrical on making it start from inside the cab. One other thing we figured out is that if you leave the engine running a bit, it does tend to overheat. I think the thermostat is sticking on it, so we might have to change the thermostat on it as well. So let's get started. So the first thing that I like to do, because I don't like working underneath that dash too much, it's kind of hard to get under there to see the wiring and everything. Number one, we weren't getting any power at all to the ignition switch from here. It kind of distributes to everything because we didn't have lights or anything. So the first thing I want to do is check the power coming into the ignition switch and make sure once we get lights and everything, then we'll worry about the other circuits. But what I was getting to is that we'll just go ahead and pull this dash so we can get to the wiring that's behind there instead of having to crawl underneath, or the instrument cluster we're going to pull off. Okay, so this thing just has some screws like right here. I went ahead and pulled those off already. Then you got to reach in behind there and unscrew the speedometer cable that goes into the back of the speedometer. Once you do that, you can pull this thing out a little ways right here. And there's one cable that plugs into the back. It's the one to the instrument cluster, and you just have to squeeze the tabs on it and that comes off. Once you get that off, then you can just pull it out. See, the whole thing comes out real easy. And now you can see all the wires. We can get to the back of the ignition switch right there, and we can get to everything else. Okay, to get this ignition switch, I am going to have to pull it out because it's hard to get in back here. I'm going to pull it out just so I can pull it down here and we can test from behind it. But all you have to do is loosen this little ring by taking a screwdriver and loosening it. Then after you're done with that, then you can just keep turning this ring until that ignition switch comes out of there. Okay, there's the ring. So we'll just set that over here. And then we just pull this ignition switch out. Then we'll push it down here. Okay. Okay, after we pulled that connector off, we can see the mess that we have here. We have, first of all, there was a bunch of gunk in here. But as you can see, this connector is pretty melted. It looks like it got hot at some point. So let's check and see, first of all, if we get power to this connector. So what we're gonna do is use a simple tester, a test light. And so we'll just start poking around in here and see if we can't get anything to light up. Okay, so we got power coming to the switch. Okay, so that's the important one right there, the center one. It's supposed to have power to it. And then with the ignition turned on, it distributes the power to these others. So let me, so if we've got power there, then we should try and see if we have lights now. Oh yeah, we got lights now. I don't know if you can see them. See there? We see lights over there. So let me turn them off. See the lights come on and off? Okay, so now we'll plug that ignition switch in and we'll see if once we turn the key on, if we're getting power out of the switch. Okay, so now we turn the switch on and we're getting power out of the switch. So that's for the accessory or the on position. So let's see if we turn this to the run position, we'll see if we're getting a light. While I hold the switch in the run position, as you can see, we are getting light there. So now we're losing that signal between here and the solenoid, the starter solenoid out there. Now there's a couple places that could be, and that is the neutral safety switch. This is an automatic. We need to find out where that is. That's typically where that goes next, and then between there and the solenoid should be nothing. So let's see if we can find the neutral safety switch. Now my understanding is that on these, it's right on the steering column somewhere. Oh yeah, guess what? I don't know. You can see that there's a lever. See, I don't know if you can see that way up there. See that lever sticking up? That guy is what operates our neutral safety switch. Well, as you can see, there is no neutral safety switch on it. So now I gotta find the wires in the harness that were supposed to be plugged into that neutral safety switch. Okay, so I found this little connector. It's not plugged into anything, and it seems to have the same color wire, which is the red with blue there, that goes to the ignition switch in the start condition, and there's the other red and blue wire. So what my thought is these other two should go to the reverse light, these two right here. So when the neutral safety switch is put in reverse, this guy here will send power to the lights, the backup lights, because it doesn't have a neutral safety switch down on the transmission on these. That didn't come out till like 1978. So my thought is, if I put a jumper across these two right here, we should be able to crank it up from in here. So let's try doing that. And okay, so we put this little jumper in there, so we could also look at my test light here while we try and crank it. And let me see if it'll crank. Yeah, it's cranking, but it's not starting. So okay, so that's one of the problems taken care of. But why are we not getting any power to the coil? So that's a different issue. Now let's try and figure out where we need to come, or where we need to have power that goes out to the coil. Okay, so tracing this wire backwards, this is a red and white wire here, the bigger of the ones that goes in this little harness. So when we look at that little harness, we see that it is this one on this end. Oops. We see that it's this one on this end right here, which coincides with the brown wire on there. See that has a brown wire to it. So if we've got power to that brown wire, we should have power to this coil. So we'll just put our test light here and there's light there. So we should have power. So we look at this thing, and apparently they had this disconnected when they were shooting some paint onto this engine. So this is probably a bad connection. So I'm gonna clean those two connectors up and see if that fixes my issue. Okay, I just took a little bit of emery paper, sanded those down, and we're gonna plug them back in and check it out. Now that we got that connector plugged in, we should have power right here, and we do. So now, with that way, we should be able to go inside and crank this thing and see if it'll start up. Well, you know what? Let me get this ignition switch put back in there. Okay. Now we got that jumpered again. Let's try this. Looks like it wants to. There we are. That takes care of that issue. Now I'll just have to make a little jumper for that and get this dash hooked back up. Well, there she is, put all back together. So let's check it out and see if this sucker will. There it is, just the way it's supposed to be. Well, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, to change the thermostat, which we'll do quickly, it's relatively easy. You have to drain down the coolant. So down here in the bottom, there's a little petcock that you gotta open. Let me turn this around and show you guys. Okay, right there, that little butterfly, all you have to do is turn that with some pliers or your hand or whatever, and let the water or antifreeze down to the level where you know you won't have water going or antifreeze going everywhere when you pull the thermostat housing off. Okay, in my case, I know it's mostly water and I have a catch bucket down there, a catch pan, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull those two bolts off. This is the thermostat housing, so we'll just pull this one, and there's one on the back side down here. See it? Yeah, right there. And we'll pull those off, and we'll just pull this housing back, expose the thermostat, change it out. We'll clean off the silicone. It looks like they had silicone on here, and we'll just put some new stuff on there. Pull these bolts off. Okay. Then we'll just pull that off, and it looks like it was low enough on water because it overflowed that it didn't have any water in it to that level. Okay, so here's your thermostat. Looks like it had silicone all over it. So we just got to peel this silicone off and get this thermostat out of there. See that gunk in there? That's what was causing this thermostat to stick. So we'll just go ahead and clean the surfaces on the housing and there on the block, and we'll go ahead and put a new thermostat on it. Okay, so you want your surfaces really clean. So there's that one, and there's this one. Now you want to scrape that groove right in here really good because you want that thermostat to seal. Okay, So when you look at this, the big end goes into the block. So this is going to go like that. But we want to put it in here and make sure that that is clean, because it's got to seal against the bottom of the thermostat housing. You don't want to go too heavy on the silicone, but you want to put just a nice even layer on there to hold the gasket on. But you don't want to go too heavy, because if you go too heavy, some of that silicone may squeeze out and get stuck in the thermostat. So let's get that thermostat on there and get it back on. Okay, so there we go. Thermostat changed. So now we can just add water and we'll be good to go. Well, let's get on to the next thing. Well, folks, that's gonna do it for this episode. Please like, share, subscribe. Put some comments down in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys on the next time.